What's going on? YouTube, listen up, young elder gang. This is Dr. Charles P. Winston at you with another banger. Please make sure you like, subscribe and share this video. Fam, I hope this video get at least 100,000 likes. In this video you will find history definitions, scripture information, and best of all what we Americans have been deprived of from the beginning, the truth. Keep in mind, this content used in this video is intended for entertainment, educational and informational purposes only. We will give you the total truth as we best understand it. Today, be sure to hit that like button, young elder gang. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Hit that bell and don't forget to check back with us every day for new content. Hey there, fellow culture explorers. Today I'm diving into the fascinating world of the Moors. Now, when I say Moors, what comes to mind? If you're thinking about the medieval Muslim inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula, you're spot on. But hold on, there's way more to it than that. Let's break this down. The term Moors isn't a one-size-fits-all label. It wasn't just a single group or ethnicity. Instead, it was like an umbrella term covering a variety of peoples and cultures, much like how you'd use American today. First off, the Iberian Moors. These were the Muslims who ruled parts of modern-day Spain and Portugal during the medieval period. Picture a melting pot. Local Iberians who converted to Islam and North Africans, mainly Berbers and Arabs, who settled there. They created a rich tapestry of culture, architecture and learning, leaving behind gems like the Alhambra and the Mosque Cathedral of Córdoba. But wait, there's more. Over in North Africa, the term Moors was also thrown around. It included Berbers, Arabs, and even some sub-Saharan African populations. These folks were instrumental in the conquest and settlement of the Iberian Peninsula. And here's a twist in Mauritania. Moors distinguish between lighter-skinned Baidan and darker-skinned Haratines, often called Black Moors. On the social and political front, the Moors were sometimes seen as the others by Christian Europe. The term carried notions of exoticism, sometimes even threat. In Spanish, Moro could refer to any Muslim, regardless of origin. Literature and art, oh boy, they loved to depict Moors. Sometimes as mysterious and seductive, other times as savage and barbaric. Through the years, these portrayals evolved, reflecting the changing tides of politics and society. And guess what? The term Moor found its way far beyond the Iberian Peninsula. It popped up in places like Sri Lanka for the Sri Lankan Moors, and even in colonial North America, referring to multiracial groups like the Melungeons. So next time you hear about the Moors, remember it's not just about one place or one time. It's a story of diverse peoples, rich cultures, and a legacy that stretches beyond borders. Keep in mind, the children of Israel and Ismail are descendants of Abraham, who is from Ur of the Chaldeans. Ur of the Chaldeans, also known as Ur-Kasdim, is a city in southern Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, where the biblical figure Abraham was born. It's a significant archaeological site, traditionally identified with the ancient Sumerian city of Ur, which was located about 140 miles southeast of Babylon. The Chaldeans, a Semitic-speaking group, later settled in the region, and the city became known as Ur of the Chaldeans. The name Ur is believed to have meant light in the Sumerian language, and it was a prominent city in southern Babylonia. The prefix mu, Ashuric Syriac Arabic, one who is. Abraham of the Bible was a Moor, so that would make all Abraham seed Moors and Abraham nephew as well. Lot was a Moor, one of Ur of Chaldeans, through his father Abraham's brother Haran. He died in Ur of the Chaldees. Through Lot, Haran was the ancestor of the Moabites and Ammonites. Lot joined Abraham's household and journeyed with him to Canaan. They later separated due to conflict between their shepherds, with Lot choosing the well-watered plains of the Jordan River. Some of Abraham and Lot's seed mixed with the Hamites and Canaanites. In fact, Abraham was already mixed with Ham, which means burnt black, from the tribe of Ham, who were also ancient Egyptians. In 711 AD, a fleet appeared on Spain's southern coast, led by Berber general Tariq ibn-Ziyad. He commanded around 7,000 men, mostly Berbers, under the Umayyad Caliphate's banner. Landing at a towering rock, later named Gibraltar from Jabal Tariq, he began an invasion that would reshape Europe. The Visigothic kingdom, weakened by civil war, was unprepared. King Roderick rushed to confront Tariq, but was decisively defeated at the Battle of Guadalete. Roderick's death shattered Visigothic power, opening the Iberian Peninsula to rapid conquest. City after city fell. Within a few years, nearly the entire peninsula was under Muslim control. This was no mere raid. It was the foundation of a new society, Al-Andalus. The arrival of Tariq marked not just a new chapter, but a new era for Spain. Al-Andalus would become a crossroads of cultures, sparking centuries of art, science and transformation. The legacy of that landing would echo through European history. The story of Moorish Spain had begun. In 711, the Moors, North African Muslims, crossed into Spain and Portugal, building a civilization that thrived for centuries. Their palaces and libraries made Spain a center of learning, while much of Europe lagged behind. But by the 1400s, Christian kingdoms began reclaiming territory in the long Reconquista. In 1492, Granada fell. The Moors were forced to convert, leave, or face dire consequences. Today, their defeat is reenacted in public festivals, turning a civilization's end into a spectacle. These events aren't just about history, they're about power, memory, and who gets to define both. Let's look at how these rituals play out today. With the Visigoths defeated, the conquerors established Al-Andalus, a province of the Umayyad Caliphate. They ruled pragmatically, offering treaties to cities that surrendered, allowing Christians and Jews to keep their faith in exchange for loyalty and taxes. This policy of tolerance fostered stability and a diverse, multi-layered society. Arabs formed the elite, while Berbers made up the majority of the army. The capital moved from Seville to Córdoba, destined to become a center of learning and culture. Internal tensions, especially between Arabs and Berbers, sometimes threatened unity. Yet, over time, a unique Andalusi identity emerged. Al-Andalus became a bridge between Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. The Iberian Peninsula was transformed into a vibrant cosmopolitan land. The term Moors is a European label, not one the people of Al-Andalus used for themselves. The invaders were a mix of Arab leaders, Berber soldiers, and later local converts called Muwaladun. Slavic slaves, Moorish Jews and Christians also lived within this society. The Berbers, indigenous to North Africa, brought their own traditions, while Arabs dominated government and high culture. Over time, Al-Andalus became a fusion of African, Arab and European, all Moorish peoples from different tribes united by Islam and a shared culture. Arabic became the language of power and learning. Moor is best understood as shorthand for this diverse, dynamic civilization. It was a society defined by cultural blending, not a single ethnicity. In 756, Abd al-Rahman, first an Umayyad prince, fled to Spain and established the independent Emirate of Córdoba. Breaking from the Islamic Empire, he set Al-Andalus on its own path. Under his dynasty, Córdoba blossomed into a magnificent city. In 929, Abd al-Rahman III declared himself Caliph, making Córdoba the center of a new Islamic empire. The Caliphate era brought peace, prosperity and legendary wealth. Córdoba became Europe's largest, most advanced city, famed for its palaces, mosques and gardens. The Great Mosque of Córdoba symbolized this golden age, all built by the Moors. For just over a century, the Caliphate's brilliance illuminated Europe thanks to the Moors. Its legacy would endure long after its fall. 10th century Córdoba was a marvel of urban life. Streets were paved and lit at night, and fresh water flowed through aqueducts to public baths and fountains. Hammams were social hubs, central to daily life and hygiene. Education flourished, literacy rates were high, and Córdoba's library held hundreds of thousands of volumes. Schools and libraries made the city a beacon of learning. Markets bustled with goods from across the world, and languages mingled in the streets. Lush gardens and courtyards offered tranquility amid urban bustle. Muslims, Christians and Jews interacted in a vibrant cosmopolitan society. Al-Andalus set a standard of sophistication unmatched in Europe for centuries. Its cities were centres of culture, commerce and innovation. Life in Moorish Spain was truly extraordinary. Al-Andalus revered knowledge, preserving and expanding on classical Greek and Roman texts. Scholars in Córdoba, Toledo and Seville studied, debated and advanced science, mathematics and philosophy. Arabic numerals and the concept of zero revolutionized European mathematics. Astronomers built observatories and perfected navigation tools. Physicians like Al-Zarawi wrote medical texts used for centuries. Philosophers such as Ibn Rushd, Averroes, reintroduced Aristotle to the West, influencing European thought and the Renaissance. Knowledge spread through schools and early universities, attracting students from across Europe and the Islamic world. The widespread use of paper made books more accessible, fueling intellectual growth. Al-Andalus was a dynamic centre of innovation, not just preservation. Its intellectual legacy shaped the course of Western civilization. The Moors' legacy shines in their architecture and art. The Great Mosque of Córdoba, with its forest of columns and arches, is a masterpiece of sacred space. The Alhambra in Granada, a palace of intricate stucco, tilework and gardens, represents the pinnacle of Moorish artistry. Andalusi architecture blended Roman, Visigothic and Islamic styles, creating something entirely new. The Spanish language absorbed hundreds of Arabic words, especially for everyday items and foods. Music and cuisine were transformed. Ziryab, a Persian musician, introduced new instruments, styles and even dining customs. The Moors revolutionized agriculture, introducing crops like rice, sugarcane and citrus, and building advanced irrigation systems. Dishes like paella trace their roots to this era. The artistic and cultural fusion of Al-Andalus left a lasting mark on Spain. Its influence is still seen in language, food and design. Moorish Spain was a wellspring of creativity and beauty. Its culture continues to inspire. For centuries, Europe's coasts lived in fear of the Barbary Corsairs, pirates from North Africa. Their swift ships and crescent flags struck terror from Morocco to Libya. Backed by rulers in Algiers, Tunis and Tripoli, these Corsairs raided for wealth and captives. Their most lucrative prize, people, sold as slaves across the Barbary coast. Their raids reached as far as France, England and even Iceland. Many coastal villages were abandoned as people fled inland for safety. The Corsairs' legacy is a stark reminder of an era when piracy and slavery ruled the waves. The Barbary Corsairs were masters of fast, agile ships, galleys and xebecs, designed for sudden, devastating attacks. Crews were a mix of local fighters, enslaved oarsmen and Moorish European renegades who brought insider knowledge of their former homelands. Their tactics relied on speed and surprise, striking coastal towns and ships before defences could be raised. For Barbary rulers, piracy was both holy war and business, but for most Corsairs it was about profit. Successful raids brought fortunes in goods and slaves, fueling a system that drew more men to piracy. Renegade captains like Murat Reis, once European sailors, became some of the most feared pirates, exploiting their knowledge of European weaknesses. The Corsairs operated like a navy, not a rabble. Organised, politically influential and protected by local rulers, rulers took a share of the loot, offering safe harbours and legal cover in return. So-called white European nations tried to buy peace with tribute, but treaties were often broken and the raids continued. The Corsairs' organisation and ruthlessness made them a persistent threat. Their power was built on a blend of local and foreign expertise. The Mediterranean was their hunting ground, and no ship or village was truly safe. The Corsairs' legacy is one of relentless ambition and terror on the high seas. Their story is inseparable from the history of Mediterranean piracy. The Corsairs struck at dawn or dusk, landing silently and storming white villages with brutal efficiency. Their goal: capture as many white people as possible for the slave markets of North Africa. Entire populations vanished overnight. Ischia, Lipari, and even the white Irish village of Baltimore were emptied in single raids. The fear was so great that many coastal regions were abandoned for generations. Watchtowers dotted the coasts, but offered little real protection. The Corsairs' reach extended into the Atlantic, raiding as far as England and Ireland. White captives faced a grim journey, crammed into filthy shipholds. Many died before reaching North Africa. Survivors were sold in slave markets, their fates uncertain and often tragic. The raids left scars on white communities, families, and the very landscape of Europe. For those taken, it was the beginning of a life in chains. In Barbary ports, captives were paraded, inspected and sold. Families torn apart, lives reduced to commodities. White men were often condemned to the galleys, chained to oars in brutal conditions. White women faced domestic servitude or worse. Skilled white captives sometimes found slightly better treatment, but freedom was rare. Conversion to Islam could bring release, but at the cost of identity and faith. Most clung to hope of ransom, writing desperate letters home, relying on religious orders to negotiate their freedom. Ransom was expensive and slow. Many died waiting, their stories lost. For every white captive freed, countless others perished in slavery. The Barbary white slave system consumed lives on an industrial scale. The suffering of white captives was the foundation of Barbary wealth and power. The reality of life in chains was harsh, with little hope for escape. The legacy of this white slavery endures in the histories of both Europe and North Africa. For most, captivity meant a lifetime of hardship and loss. For centuries, Europe tried diplomacy and force to end Barbary piracy, paying tribute, launching naval attacks, but with little lasting success. Change came in the late 1700s as the United States and European powers refused to pay tribute and fought back. The Barbary Wars saw American and Allied navies challenge the Corsairs in their own waters, proving they could be defeated. After the Napoleonic Wars, European navies grew stronger and less tolerant of piracy. In 1816, a massive Anglo-Dutch bombardment of Algiers forced the release of over 1,000 slaves. The final blow came with French conquest of Algiers in 1830, ending the Corsairs' power base. The Barbary states fell under European control and the age of state-sponsored piracy ended. The Corsairs' legacy, centuries of terror, over 1 million enslaved and a transformed Mediterranean world. Their downfall marked a shift in power, closing a violent chapter in history. The story of the Barbary Corsairs is a reminder of the brutality and complexity of the past. Their era ended, but their impact still echoes today. The Caliphate's golden age ended in the 11th century, splintering into weak Taifa kingdoms. Christian kingdoms in the north seized the opportunity, beginning the long Reconquista. The capture of Toledo in 1085 was a turning point. Berber dynasties from North Africa briefly reunited Al-Andalus, but couldn't stop the Christian advance. By the 13th century, Córdoba and Seville had fallen, only Granada remained. For 250 years, Granada survived as a vassal state, its rulers building the Alhambra. In 1492, after a decade-long siege, the last Moorish sultan surrendered Granada to Ferdinand and Isabella. Nearly 800 years of Muslim rule ended. The Reconquista closed a dramatic era in Spanish history. The legacy of Al-Andalus, however, would endure. The Moors' influence remains woven into Spain's identity. The Alhambra and Mezquita are iconic reminders, but their legacy is everywhere in architecture, city layouts and whitewashed villages. Mudéjar style, with its arches and tilework, blends Moorish and Christian forms. Flamenco music echoes North African and Arabic traditions. Spanish is rich with Arabic words, and Andalusia's name itself comes from Al-Andalus. The region's art, festivals and spirit are deeply Moorish. The Moors' contributions in science, art and agriculture helped shape modern Spain and Europe. Their civilization lives on in Spain's stones, words and culture. How do you keep a conquered people down? You throw a party in their name, but not one they'd want to attend. In Spain, the Three Kings Parade features King Balthazar, traditionally played by a white person in blackface. In the Netherlands and Belgium, Sinterklaas arrives with Zwarte Piet, a white person in blackface dressed as a clownish servant. In Philadelphia, the Mummers Parade once featured blackface skits mocking black Americans. These aren't isolated incidents, they're part of a pattern. Across continents, parades use blackface and caricature to mock Moorish and black identities. In Spain, the defeated Moor becomes a festival joke. In the Netherlands, Black Pete is a bumbling sidekick. In America, black identity was a costume for ridicule. These rituals are deeply embedded, performed for cheering crowds year after year. They're not just old traditions, they're public affirmations of a narrative that keeps the conquered in their place. The message is clear, history is written and performed by the victors. But what's really being celebrated? Let's break down the performance. Costumes are exaggerated, cartoonish versions of Moorish dress, baggy pants, fezzes and ornate robes. These aren't tributes, they're caricatures turning a defeated culture into a costume. Blackface is the most blatant insult, rooted in a history of mockery and dehumanization. When white performers don black paint to play Balthazar or Black Pete, they reduce entire identities to a mask. The characters act foolish, childlike or undignified, classic tactics to strip dignity and reinforce stereotypes. The parades take over cities, drawing huge crowds who cheer and participate. It's not just a few people in costume, it's a massive public ritual reinforcing a version of history where Moors and black people are punchlines. The spectacle is a collective act embedding these ideas deep into cultural memory. The message, your history is a joke, your identity a costume. These rituals aren't harmless fun, they're powerful tools of erasure. But is there something even deeper at work? Let's explore the idea of ritual as a kind of spell. Some see these parades as more than just racism. They see them as rituals casting a spell of forgetfulness. By reenacting defeat and mockery, the rituals reinforce powerlessness and historical amnesia. The repetition, the symbols, the crowds all work together to proclaim you are defeated, you are asleep. The spell is a metaphor for psychological conditioning, making people forget their own powerful history. If you only see yourself as a servant or a clown, you might start to believe it. The ritual severs connection to a proud past, leaving people adrift. You don't have to believe in magic to see the effect. Public mockery creates real psychological barriers. It divides, it diminishes, and it teaches everyone to accept a false order. The true spell is the unconscious acceptance of this narrative, but spells can be broken. The good news, people are waking up. Protests against Zwarte Piet have sparked national debates in the Netherlands, leading to changes in how the character is portrayed. In Spain, more cities are hiring black actors for Balthazar, challenging the tradition of blackface. The Mummers Parade faces pressure to end offensive acts, with real consequences for violations. These changes are slow and met with resistance, but they matter. Challenging these rituals isn't erasing history, it's remembering it honestly. We must ask, why do our celebrations mock others? Who benefits from these traditions? By questioning and evolving our rituals, we build a more inclusive future. The most powerful celebration is one that honors our shared humanity, not our divisions. Keep exploring and never stop asking questions. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next adventure.